She walked through the World Trade Center at 7:30 that morning to her office building, 2 blocks away from the World Trade Center. It was September 11th, 2001. I took the day off from work because I was getting ready to start a new job.
Talking about his wife.
And I brought my children to school on a beautiful, cloudless day in the state where I was born and raised. When I got home, the first plane had hit the first building, and I called my wife. She told me there was nothing to worry about. She could see the fire from out her window. They told her it was a small commuter plane. Wow. And then all would be fine. While we were on the phone discussing what our plans were for the day, and her making sure that I remember to pick up the children from school, the second plane hit the second building. Her bosses told her she had to evacuate to the basement of her building immediately. And for the next 5.5 hours, I didn't hear from her. At that time, we had 3 children, an 8-year-old son, a 5-year-old daughter, and a 1-year-old son. And as the hours passed and the buildings fell and the death toll mounted, and I didn't hear from my wife, I knew 2 things. One, that when my children came home from school, the first thing they were going to ask me is, "Where's Mom?" And the second thing I thought about was, what would my life be like without my best friend and as a single parent of 3? Fortunately for me and for our children, Mary Pat came out alive. But that night, one of our friends from our parish, who she had gotten a job for after he had become unemployed, was not home. The job she had gotten him was in the World Trade Center. We went and sat with his wife, and she replicated what was going on all throughout our region that night. She sat and said to us, "I'm sure Frank is fine. I'm sure he's just in a hospital somewhere. I'm sure I'm going to hear from him soon." Of course, he never came home. And days later, we went to his funeral, and the parish gym is named now in his honor. You see, for me, being 7 years as the U.S. Attorney in New Jersey, immediately after September 11th, terrorism is not theoretical. It's not something that I discuss in the basement of the Capitol in a subcommittee meeting. I went to the funerals. I saw the carnage. And it was my job in the days, weeks, months, and years after that to make sure that it never happened again. I'm honored to have had that job, and honored to be one of the folks who contributed to making sure in the next 7 years it didn't happen again. And I fear as a nation that we've begun to lose our focus on how we felt in the days after September 11th, how fearful we were, how at risk we felt. We took for granted the safety and security that was provided to us by a government that understood its first and most important job, which was to provide for the safety and the security of the American people. So I had originally thought, when I was thinking about this yesterday and coming to speak to all of you, that I would do what I normally do. I'd get a handheld microphone, I'd wander around the stage, I'd talk to you about my vision for America's future and its economy, education, jobs, and our national security. Tell a few jokes and have a good time with you. But I thought last night as I watched the television and the unfolding events that was not the appropriate speech for someone who's asking you to be the leader of our country to give on a day like today. And so I took to my thoughts, and unusually for me, I put them down on paper. So I hope you forgive me, because I think the time is too serious and the moment is too grave to be giving off-the-cuff remarks today, to be giving you some canned stump speech that I've given in Iowa or New Hampshire. I want to speak to you about what's in my heart, about what I've seen based on my experience for the last 24 hours.